and that I have to hunker down and like listen to audiobooks because I have like three that I need to listen to this weekend.
I know. I've got two that I need to get through by next week.
Technically, like one's like a group read, like we're group listening together. So there's not much pressure off of that one, but I'm like, I need to catch up a little bit. So there's that one. Then I have Mother Hater, which is on Tuesday. And then
Yeah.
I got the Lauren Page one with Sarah in it, which
Yes, I need to listen to that one too. I was gonna try to start it today and then it just didn't happen.
I listened to like a little bit last night and I was like, I love it. Okay, now I have to do like a million other things. So I also just got a new pair of headphones that I need to crack in. So
Oh,
I'm excited.
yes.
Listen, at this point, I'm gonna have like three specific headphones. I'm gonna have one that just stays in my purse, one that stays in the apartment, and then one that stays at probably in my car. I can't even say work because I don't even go into the office anymore. Just so that I have something everywhere because I will forget a pair somewhere and then I'll be upset.
Yeah.
True.
Well, I have a backup pair because I don't charge them every single night and I just
That
forget where
too.
they are in their battery power. And so I've been caught out and about, like at Costco or somewhere, and I don't have working earbuds, and I don't know how to grocery shop without earbuds now,
Yep.
without my audiobook.
Yep.
It's a
That
little
was
bit of
me
an
last night.
obsession, I think. But
Last night I was like getting into my story as I was getting work done, and then it did the beep beep low battery, and I'm like, and
I
it's
know,
ruined. The bubble
I
burst.
know. Yeah, just
I
get
was
you
like,
another pair. I got two pairs now, and I just keep them with me, and that way, if one dies,
other one's
because that
good.
happened
That's
on my flight to California. I had just charged my Kindle. I like to read while I'm listening
mhm.
sometimes if I'm just sitting there.
Yeah,
And I mean, it was a long day, but I still had an hour and a half left of my flight. My Kindle died, like the battery completely drained.
yeah,
And then my first pair of earbuds stopped working too. So I had my second pair, so I could listen. I just couldn't read along.
yeah. That's what I'm
Read along.
doing with one of the books is a read along and a listen along because I want to give the Kindle read like the Kindle pages as well. So I'm like, I have to remember. That's the other thing that I'm trying now to remember is read and listen at the same time if I can, just
Yeah.
so that it's all together.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll do that a lot at night before I go to bed because I cannot just lay there and listen to an audiobook or just sit on the sofa. Like I got to be doing something, but I can
Hmm.
read along with it and I'll notice my eyes because I skip a lot or skim. So I know
Hmm.
that I'm missing things in the story when I'm just eyeball reading. So the audio actually slows me down. So
Okay.
it really helps with my retention because my eyes will start to skip looking up here, so I have to make myself go back
Yeah,
up.
like yeah.
But
That's
it
so smart.
helps. I really feel like it helps me.
It does. So speaking of that, just to kind of get into everything, if you guys are here, welcome. If you don't know who Tiffany is, go follow Tiffany. She is literally the audiobook. I call her the audiobook queen because if I have any questions about audiobooks,
You're sweet.
she is the person I go to. If she recommends the book, I'm gonna listen to it because she recommended it. But as I mentioned before, I really wanted to take the time and give people the opportunity to ask audiobook questions and really just learn more about audiobooks because as you've mentioned in a couple of your videos and in a couple of mine, there has been like a huge increase of people actually listening and consuming and enjoying audiobooks. And in one of my last videos, I mentioned because my Leather and Lark video like blew up. And so people are like, oh, I have to do, Butcher and Blackbird. And I'm like, yeah, Butcher and Blackbird is great. But then I had to apologize even in that video because Blackbird, that is such like a high bar.
It
Like
does set a high bar.
it's a high bar. So my first question to you is if someone came to you asking for an audiobook recommendation, like they're just getting into audiobooks, what would be like your top five books that you would recommend?
Well, I always start by asking people if they haven't listened to audio before. I actually suggest that they start with a book that they've already read in the past that
Okay.
they really loved. And this seems to work for a lot of people, and it really helped me too. Probably the first eight or so audiobooks I listened to were all books I had previously read that I really
Okay.
loved. Because one, it takes the pressure off.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of people will say, well, I don't think I can pay attention to audiobooks. And so if you already love the story, right? You already
Hmm.
know the story, then the pressure is off for you to feel like I have to pay attention to everything that's happening because you already know the story. And
Sure.
so I feel like that's a really easy way to step into it. And then some of it is just trial and error too. Some people really just like to relax while they're listening. A lot of other people have to be doing something,
Hmm.
washing dishes, cleaning the house, driving, gardening, exercising, grocery shopping, um, to help them pay attention more.
Yeah.
And then, I also always ask people if they ask a question like that, or somebody give me an audiobook suggestion. Like, that is a huge, like, I don't even know where to start with that. And so
Hmm.
I usually ask people, like, okay, well, what kinds of books do you like? Are you really into dark romance? Do you like contemporary romance? Do you really like to laugh and you like rom-coms?
Hmm.
Um, and then, of course, like story wise, I ask like, what kind of tropes do they like? What are they really into? And then from there, I can narrow it down to give a recommendation. But sometimes, I recommend a dual style, and sometimes I might recommend a duet style. I think most newer listeners prefer duet. At least that's my
Hmm.
experience in talking with people, thousands of people
Yeah.
over the last year and a half. Um, but I mean, there's a lot of actors who do amazing voices for the opposite gender, and so I'm not going to
Hmm.
not recommend a dual style narration. Oh, Samantha was asking, is Kobo worth it? I've never used Kobo, to be honest with you.
I think I signed up for it, but I haven't really like dived deep into it, if I'm honest.
Yeah, so Kobo, trying to remember, I think you're going to get about, you could always try a trial, but I think it's going to be somewhat similar to
Mm-hmm.
So with audiobooks, and this kind of filters in like with Audible, KU, the rights holder for that book. Sometimes it's the author. Sometimes it's the author and the narrators, if they do a royalty share. Sometimes it's between the author and a production company, or it's just the production company.
Hmm.
And a lot of indie authors will go Audible exclusive. Okay, and there are some smaller production companies that will go Audible exclusive.
Hmm.
That means that you're only ever going to find that audiobook through Audible, which is through Amazon, and then I think iTunes.
Mm.
iTunes is also connect, like they all have the same parent
Yeah.
company for that. So that's the only place you're going to find that. So you're never going to find those audiobooks on Kobo Plus, Everand. You're not going to find them. You read and listen for free. You're not going to find them at your libraries. Chirp, all of the other subscription services that you can think of, they're not going to be there. And they do that because they get a larger percentage of the royalties if they're Audible exclusive. If they don't do that and they go wide with their audiobooks, then you're going to be able to find them anywhere and everywhere. So for me, it's just really about, how accessible is your local library? What kind of selection do they have? Do they allow you to request? Like my local library compared to Everand, pretty much has the same books. So why do I want to pay for a subscription to Everand which used to be Scribed,
Hmm.
when I can do it for free through my library or through Hoopla? Same thing. That's a library one. Um, so really, people to try the trial because usually the trials are free, or they're very, very cheap. Just remember to cancel it if you don't like it, but just go and see and check out the books that they have and see if the selection looks good to you or not. I do tell people though, Audible, personally, I do not think Audible is worth it if you are not taking advantage of their Plus catalog that comes with your
Hmm.
subscription. If you are only using it for that one credit a month, that $15 a month thing, and that's the only thing you're doing, I don't think it's worth it.
Oh, I agree. After I think watching that one video you did about this, and then your second one, which I now do religiously, my poor bank account does not like you after this one, when you were saying to get the book for free and then wait for the bottom part to see if it's on Audible. a $15 Audible book has now turned into $5 or $6, and I'm like, buy, immediately buy.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it saves so much, and like it's so funny that you say that because I just got my credit today and I just used it on a book, and I'm like, I bought so many books though, only to wait for like that one credit a month. Like if you're not religiously listening to a lot of audiobooks, I definitely don't feel like it's worth it. Like I feel like they should change that subscription like so much, because if you're only waiting for that one credit or like that one sale you were telling me about like a couple months ago when books were like $2, $3, like in
Mhm.
the grand scheme of things, there are so many other options that are money saving for those that like want to save money and that's like what you want to do
Yeah.
versus doing the $15 a month, waiting for that one credit for that one book. Meanwhile, your TBR list is like 20 books and like
Right.
you're like 20 books behind because you can't read the book that you want to read.
Yeah. I mean, but every month Audible does have special sales, and you have to have a subscription to be able to have access to those.
Mm-hmm.
So like some of the March sales right now, some of the books are on sale for $7.99. Well, I have a KU membership. So I could go to KU, and you have to do your research. You have
Mm-hmm.
to figure all this out yourself. There's not an easy way. But you can take, book A, and it's on sale for $7.99, and then you go over to Amazon and you realize, "Oh, well, I can borrow the ebook and then get it for $7.50." So it's really
Mm-hmm.
not a great sale. But
No.
then some of the ones are like $6.99. Okay, so they're slightly cheaper. Or $5.99. Okay, that's a little more. Same thing with the box sets. Sometimes there are box sets that authors do, and you cannot get them discounted through Amazon, through Kate, credits, or to pay cash for it. And, that's where credit could really be worth it.
Yeah.
Hi, Michaela. Somebody else asked a question.
Ash, so she's wondering, since you mentioned dual and duet style, could you explain them and which is your favorite style?
Sure. Actually, the one right before that, though, since we were just talking about Audible, what is that? What is the Plus
Oh
catalog?
yeah.
So, Audible subscriptions, they have three levels.
Mm-hmm.
Most everyone is aware of number two, and it's about $15 a month, and it comes with one credit a month plus their Audible Plus catalog. What that means is they have a certain amount of audiobooks that you can borrow and listen to as many as you want during the month. There's no limit on that. But that is not every audiobook. That's just ones that are specific. The library, they change it up maybe every 6 months. They'll get new ones in and some will go out. So I think authors sign some kind of contract with them to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then they have an $8 a month subscription, and that's only the Plus catalog. So if you just want to pay $8 a month and just listen to the Plus catalog, you can do that, but you won't get any credits.
Yeah.
Then I think their highest tier, you get 2 credits a month, and then you can buy extra credits. So that's what that is. Um, Dual and duet style. So dual style, like if you're talking about like a romance book, you're typically going to have a male and female narrator and male and female main character, and their POVs are going to switch back and forth chapter by chapter. So in a dual style, you'll have the female narrator. She does her character's POV chapter, but she does every voice in that chapter. So she's doing female and male voices. And then the next chapter, if it's switching to the male character's POV, now you have the male narrator, and he's doing the same. So he's doing male and female voices within that chapter. This is what you see the most in the industry. Probably that or solo, where it's just one narrator. Duet style is a little newer, definitely becoming increasingly more popular. So duet is where the female narrator is going to voice all of the female characters, and the male narrator is going to voice all the male characters. Now, this one's more expensive to produce, because you basically have a narrator sitting in their booth, and they're given a script, and it's highlighted for all of their voice work. So if I'm the female narrator, I'll say a line of dialogue, and then you have to pause if the male if the male character is saying something. So it's a different level of acting ability, honestly, because there's a lot of start, stop, start, stop,
Mhm.
and you have to pretend that the other person is there saying those things to you. And then an engineer has to go back and cut all of those files to fit them together and then make sure that it sounds consistent.
Yeah.
So that one costs more money.
That just like hearing it and just like after listening to duet styles and just hearing how seamless it is, like I just sometimes I just want to sit in a booth and just watch them like put it all together because
Yeah.
the amount of hours and like skill it takes to put all of that together, like I know this is like completely different, but when I was doing like our 12 days of horror mist that we did a couple months ago, I had to not only like put our videos together, cut them up, but I had to cut voice up in a different way because she would like the audio would talk, but her mouth wasn't moving. So I had to like edit
Oh,
it to make it move. And I just like having to do all of that, like somehow I made it work perfectly. But I sat there endlessly for I think an hour and a half just trying to make it all work.
yeah.
But to do like I'm thinking of like Entangled, where there's like five of them and having to
That's
and do all of that, like oh like it's only I think it was what 21 hours or something like that, but like the amount of hours it took for them to do that one and then they were able to get ensnared. Wait, is it entangled ensnared? They got the second one out like
ensnared first, ensnared and then entangled.
entangled. But to get the second one out like so fast, I'm like, how many hours did y'all pull to get that to get I cannot I can't fathom that, honestly.
It's a lot. And I've heard audiobooks where you can tell the whoever the engineer was on it or who edited it did a really good job.
Mm-hmm.
And then the ones that need a little more practice. So I actually listened to an audio proofed Lauren Blakely book that is coming out next week. Yeah, it comes out next week. And as I was listening, it's duet style.
Mm-hmm.
It's called The Almost Romantic.
Okay.
Um, but I messaged her and I said, "This is done brilliantly." Like I said, whoever you have to do your editing, it's flawless. I mean,
Mm.
because the dialogue is just really tight. So
Yeah.
there's no, sometimes I feel like with duet style like that, the pauses can be just a little too long
Mm-hmm.
where they fit it together. And so it can be a little disruptive if you're listening at 1.0 speed because you think that doesn't feel like natural dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
This one, it was like they were talking to each other and it felt very real and very natural. So,
Well, that and I think that's why part of me recommends Butcher and Blackbird. Like as much as I'm like, oh, it's right up there, but it feel like I tell people it feels like I'm listening to a TV show without like watching one
yeah.
because the conversation just. I think that was the first audiobook where it just smoothly hit like because I think someone had mentioned in the comments. I had remember King of Wrath was kind of like my intro back into audiobooks a little bit, and that one was duet style, but it was just like, it's okay, like it's good but like Butcher and Blackbird, I have like on the top of my list of like, if you really need something and you love duet style, like that's your book right there. But I also will recommend like the Hollow's Row series because even though it's dual, it's done so well. I love it. Um, but yeah, it's just now that like I've really like I'm trying to be more intentional of like watching and listening to different books and hearing the editing of it
Yeah.
because audiobooks just like amaze me for some reason. Like I am now like, how does this all work?
I understand. Yeah, well, Butcher and Blackbird was done differently than typical duet style because it was live recorded together.
Mm.
And so on the same track. So that's why it feels very much like an audio
Yeah.
play. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
So that's not typically how it's done, but I mean, it sounds great when it is done that way.
oh yeah, I've listened to a couple of like Joe's in the booth sessions when they're doing duets and he snaps and I'm like, oh that's so cool. So like they have to listen for the snap in order to like edit that out and put something else
Oh,
in.
yeah.
Like
Yeah, a snap, or sometimes there's like a dog clicker.
I was gonna ask that because I know that each narrator kind of has their own thing, and I know you also like proof and listen to that. I don't know in what process you really listen to it, but have you noticed or seen that like authors kind of have their own? Like, is there one thing that every narrator kind of does when they're doing that? whatever they feel is necessary, and then they just make notes in.
Yeah, I think everybody probably does something that's a little different. And usually by the time I get my ear, because I'm not an editor or an engineer,
Mm-hmm.
so by the time I have listened to it, it has already gone through one or two rounds of proofing. And I'm like
Gotcha.
final round just to catch any last minute things that need to be fixed before it goes live. Because things get missed.
Yeah, so you're the proof before the ALCs. You're like right there before us, and then it
Yes,
goes out.
I try to get to it before it goes out as an ALC for sure. Let's see. Samantha asks, "Is there an easy way to see if your Kindle books have audiobooks?" Yeah. I mean, if you just when you're looking at your Kindle book, it'll have that box at the top, like when you click on a book, and it will have Kindle Unlimited or ebook for purchase, and it'll have audiobook right next to it. So if you just click where it says audiobook, well, one, if there is no audiobook, it won't be there. That box
Yeah.
won't be there. But if you click where it says audiobook and then scroll down, it'll tell you who the narrators are, how long the book is. And then I have not found an easy way to figure this out on Amazon, but if you Google search Amazon Kindle Matchmaker, sometimes it'll automatically connect to my Amazon account, but what the matchmaker is, all of the Kindle ebooks that you have downloaded, it
Mm-hmm.
will pull up all of the audiobooks that match them. So it's just
Ooh.
an easy way if you have, 20 books on your Kindle, it'll pull up all the audiobooks, and then if you want to add, it'll have the price next to it if you add it on.
Okay.
Sometimes it's like $1.99. Sometimes it's usually $1.99 or about 7.50. Just kind of depending on the book and then who published it.
Yeah, I have something else to look into tonight.
Yeah, but there's not like an easy like matchmaker button. Like I
No,
always
it's never
have
gonna
to,
be
and I've
easy.
tried to find blog posts talking about it. Um, so yeah, usually I just have to Google it.
Always. Google has everything. I had somebody actually ask on Instagram. They were
Really?
saying that when they listen to the audiobook on Whisper Sync and they're
Uh-huh.
following along, or they're like on Whisper Sync trying to follow along, they notice that it doesn't sync up exactly. And so she was wondering if there's a way to sync it up or if that's just like it is what it is.
It
Oh
is what it is.
no, that's so upsetting. Like, because I
It
know,
is.
like, go ahead.
No, no, no. Just go ahead. It's fine.
I know for me, I love like when there is an audiobook for the Kindle book that I have. I do actually have the Kindle open, not only so I don't lose my Kindle streak, which I've lost several times at this point, but I love actually seeing it actually highlight where I am. So that helps me stay focused on where we are so I don't skim.
Yeah.
Um, but then I've also noticed and someone else noticed it. And I think for me, from like listening between like you and other narrators, someone's like, oh, well, oh no, someone messaged me. They're like, I noticed that they're either skipping words or they're changing words, like from the book to the narration. Like, should I say something? And I go, no, I don't want to say it's done on purpose, but I feel like they follow the script that's given to them. So if that script is missing a word, that's like nothing that can be done. But I feel like the scripts are done for a purpose, if that makes sense. Where they're like trying to follow the book, but then I don't know if changes ever needed to be put in the book, like from the book to audiobook narration. But that was also another thing that someone kind of asked me. I was like, because they were wondering, they were ALCing and they were wondering if they needed to like tell the company like, oh, you're missing words. And I was like, no, unless it changes the meaning of the paragraph or the story that you're
Yeah.
talking about, or if it's like a big tell them if a big chunk of a paragraph is missing, then
Right.
that's like something. But I told them a few words here and there. If you know what's happening, I would just like skip over that.
Yeah, it's not really that big of a deal. I mean, like I audio proofed all of the Momcom books,
Mm-hmm.
and all four of those authors, they said, if there's dialogue tags that are left out, that was not a problem for them.
Yeah.
A dialogue tag is what comes after, dialogue in a book where it's he said, she said, he
Mm.
laughed, um, she sighed, those kinds of things. So what some actors will do, especially if the author communicates this is something that they want, if
Mhm.
possible. So dialogue, dialogue, and instead of it saying he laughed, dialogue, dialogue, and then the male actor would just, you know, laugh during that part and then continue on. So it feels a little more conversational that way as
Yeah.
well when you're hearing those things. But then if you're reading along, you can't get a sound of a sigh or a
Yeah.
laugh or something. So it has to say he laughed, she sighed.
Yeah. That brings up a question for me. So, and I know I've heard from like different authors, but from my recollection, authors can have like a pretty big hand when it comes to the audiobooks, but I feel like a lot of them, depending on like who's narrating in the company, they just kind of like give it over and like call it a day. Do you notice like one over the other where, the author has like all of these notes, like it has to go this way, or is it just more of like, yay, it's going to be turned into an audiobook, I trust you?
I mean, I think it depends on the author and the situation. Is the author self publishing that book? That means, are they paying for everything? If they are paying for everything, they are going to want to have a lot more say.
Mm-hmm.
If they are sharing royalties with that production company, or if they are selling their rights to that production company, they're not going to have as much say
Gotcha.
in what happens. So, but like again, that varies from company to company. There are some production companies that when they acquire the rights for the book, they do whatever they want. The author has zero say. They don't get
Mm,
to say anything about casting, whether or not they like the narrators that were cast. Like they lose all ability to say anything. And then there are some companies that still want to work with authors. And if authors say, I really want this narrator, the production company, because they now have a vested interest
mm-hmm.
in making sure that that book sells,
Yeah.
they might, they have more experience a lot of times. So they might say, I know you really like this person, but what about this person for the character instead?
Yeah.
For 100 different reasons. So sometimes that kind of thing might happen.
Mm-hmm.
So it really just depends again on the company, on the author, on the contract, on the
Yeah.
situation. It can always look differently. And
Uh,
some authors think of audiobooks as like an afterthought. They don't really listen to audio themselves, so they're not going to have a strong opinion about it. They just know their readers are asking for it. And so they may say, yeah, just whatever you think. Like you make the choice and yeah, let me hear it and we'll go from there. I don't want to say they don't care. I don't mean for it to sound like that, but they just don't
they just aren't super knowledgeable and
right.
don't.
They're going to
It's.
trust the company to make the best
Mhm.
decision for those characters, and sometimes that happens.
Yeah. So speaking of that, and I know we had a laugh about it. But I lied to people because with the Leather and Lark, everyone was like, "Oh, Joe and Lucy are gonna do the audiobook," and I was like, "Oh, guys, there's like plenty of time until June." So can you explain to everyone kind of like what that process can look like, what you can say about actually like getting narrators like assigned to a specific audiobook, like how long that process kind of looks from like start to finish?
So I'll just talk in really general terms just
Mm-hmm.
to give you an idea. But a lot of narrators are very busy. And so some of them, they get booked almost a year in advance. Like I know of one male narrator, he is already done for 2024. He has no more room in his schedule for 2024. He is now booking into 2025.
That is
So
crazy.
if an author has in mind a particular narrator that they really want, if there's somebody that they really, really want and there's just no wiggle room on that, they're gonna have to be flexible on when their book comes out, right?
Yeah,
Um, and then, sometimes authors are flexible and they say, I don't care, I got to have this person no matter what. And
and then they'll
you
just
know,
wait for it. Yeah.
right. But I mean, when you're starting the process of, casting, it depends on how long it takes. If you're working with a production company, they may give an author a list of samples and auditions for for the authors to listen to. They
Mhm.
might send those back and none of those work, and then they got to go again. So, I mean, start to finish with editing and everything, it can take 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Once you've casted and you've got the manuscript out, the recording's done, the editing happens. But again, narrators get sick.
Hmm.
If they get sick and their voice is gone for a week and a half, that's going to delay production. And so some authors really try to do simultaneous releases. And I mean, Brittany, she's in here. She could definitely attest to that. Like, that just takes a lot of ahead thinking and very, very good scheduling.
I
Because
mean,
that's hard to do too. I mean, you can
yeah.
set up pre-order with Amazon specifically to kind of guarantee your date
Hmm.
for release, but you have to be thinking really pretty
Far
far in
ahead.
advance to
Yeah.
make it happen. For the most part, there's always exceptions to any of these things I'm saying.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Because I, I really just got into audiobooks. I really have to say I jumped back into it October. I think it was October because
Okay.
I don't know what it was. I was just like, I really want to read more. I want to read more books. And I'm driving like 45 minutes to an hour to work. So
Nice.
just put on an audiobook. And that's kind of what started back. Like, as we're sitting here, I'm kind of sitting here thinking because I was one of those people where like I've read a lot as a child, read so many things. And then I got into college, I just stopped. And I can't tell you if it was because of all of like the schoolwork and all the like required reading. I was like, I can't do this anymore. I can't require reading and like love reading at the same time. I just couldn't do it. But then I remembered like the summers that I was home and I would be working out around my neighborhood. I was listening to audiobooks, but they were like this. I'm like, I remember doing that. Don't remember them anymore. So it's crazy to kind of hear like my audio journey at this point because now like I'm juggling three different books of three different genres. One is a pirate book, one is the Mother Hater, and then the third one, what is my third one?
A scary one.
Probably it
You
well,
like those scary books.
I have been enjoying them. I literally the Kindle double point thing was today, and I bought like 8 books that were all just erotic horror. And I should feel probably really bad about it. I filled out an ARC form today where the one question was, "Do you have any triggers?" And I put no. I was like, nope, not one. Which is when we which this has to be one of my favorite things I've ever seen you react to was Little Stranger. But after seeing like Spider Play, that's why I read the book before the audiobook came out, just so then I knew because I hate spiders. I cannot stand spiders. I know that we're supposed to coexist with them. I don't like them at all whatsoever. So I was like, I need to see how much like this spider plays a part in this book because I signed up for the ALC and when I sign up for them, I don't always expect to get them. I'm like, listen, I will still support and buy them, but if I get the ALC, I need to be prepared. I need to be prepared for this. And then that whole performance was just crazy. But seeing you react to it, you and Rose specifically, because like Sarah, I had a feeling how she's gonna react. You and Rose were like the best ones.
Crazy.
Was
I
amazing.
I'll tell you this. That is not my normal kind of book. Okay.
Oh, I know. That's why when
I
you're
don't
like, I'm gonna give it a try, I was like, yes.
Yes, I was enticed by the idea of how the performance was done. Um, it was like a 6 hour long book. I cringed and like the entire time, and I had the best time while doing it. Like
Those are like the best books.
it was so entertaining for me. Like
It
just
was
the
so
way
good.
I was so interactive with that story because of all the cringing and like ah, it was fun.
That was great. Yeah, I can't remember the third one that I'm listening to. No, actually, it's a mafia one that Angelina Rocca and Troy Duran are that just came out. That's the third one. I was like, I always try to do like three different genres for whatever reason. I can't just have one book going. No, it's gotta be three. So yeah, I
Is that the first time you've heard Angelina Rocca?
no, it's not.
Oh.
No,
She's
she's
wonderful.
my instant buy narrator at this point. Like if she's on it, done. Like I just finished listening to her and Teddy do Hitched.
Oh, I liked
I
Hitched.
loved
See,
it.
that was I chat with Lauren a little bit and have for I don't know, gosh, oh, probably a year and a half or so when she was working on getting that book produced. She's like, I think you will actually like this one. She's like my other book, but I think you'll like this one, and I did. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, Teddy
That
and
one's so
Angelina
good.
sounded so good together.
That was just again duet style narration, the story, their emotions. Like the I, I joke when I say this. I feel like authors pick Angelina, or no, I feel like I'm saying her name wrong. No,
Yeah, Angelina.
Angelina and Joe for like the emotional scenes, and Teddy. I feel like those are the top three where they're like, you want to evoke emotion? Those three. Because anytime I've ever listened to Angelina do anything, it's like heartbreaking. Because I listened to what's that one? You recommended it.
Between
Between
Ever and Forever.
cried.
So good.
So good.
Love that
But
book.
so good. I was like that first part, I was like how
Oh,
emotional because I think I randomly like between ALCs I try to do like one or two that are my own like fun books because maybe you feel this way sometimes like especially with working and proofing you still want to tab at your own TBR and you still want to listen to your own books and it kind of helps it not feel like work sometimes between like arcing and ALCing so that was one of them and I'm like oh this is gonna be great it's not gonna be that emotional nope like
oh, that
first
book's
four chapters, I
emotional.
was like DMing Angelina. I'm like, you broke me again. Thanks.
Yeah. Oh. Now that was I don't know if Brittany is still in here, but she was the producer on that book, and a lot of that book was live recorded together. So they did
Oh,
it,
so
I guess,
interesting.
over Zoom. I don't know what platform that they use,
Yeah,
so that Jacob Morgan and Angelina Rocca could hear and see each other. And so it really felt like they were playing off of each other in that
yeah,
duet style. But I love that. I mean, I think several production houses are trying to do more of that and schedule that because I think
yeah.
that's what listeners are asking for, especially in romance. Like, we want expressive performances.
Really, we do. I feel like that's what really will bring people in to certain books. Like when we can really like close our eyes and hear it, not only hear it but then feel it. You're just like, I'm gonna be a puddle now. I'm just gonna sit here and cry, and that's okay. Like dishes, what are those? I'm not doing those anymore.
Right. I'm going to scroll up. I think I've missed a couple of questions. I think it was something Maria said earlier. Oh, yeah. She just said getting an audiobook off of Kindle Unlimited for 7.49 sometimes is a better deal than using a credit. Yeah,
Oh yeah. Like because you'll
absolutely.
look at a book and it's like $21 and you're like, yes, cool, but I could also get it off of Kindle Unlimited, save the book and get it for $7. And then you're not because correct me if I'm wrong, you don't need to have an Audible subscription in order to do that. You just have to have Kindle Unlimited. So
Right.
at that point you're saving yourself so much money without having to wait once a month for a credit that you can only use one time. And then you're spending more on two credits and I think at one point I thought doing the top one for two credits was worth it. It was not.
Oh, yeah. Let's see. Yeah, Vanessa, they did. Angelina Rocca and Zach, Jacob Morgan, was doing in Zach's Patreon. They did a live recording of it. I heard about that. Um, yeah, I think if I think about it, I think I have only ever paid, I don't think I've ever paid full price for an audiobook.
I think the
Because
only ones
I don't think there's a need to. Feel, I mean, but I also have subscription services, but I
yeah,
don't between Audible and Kindle Unlimited and Library, so Libby and Hoopla.
I think for me, the only audiobooks I've, which is probably going to sound like very obsessive and me just throwing money out into the wind, and that's totally okay. The only audiobooks I've ever bought are the same audiobooks where I have like the physical books or like the special edition books because at that point, if I'm buying special editions, I want all forms of it. So I did buy both Hawk and Kid because those are just like, and that Audible. I have them on physical. I
Okay,
have the
yes,
special
same.
editions, so it's an obsession at this point. It's pretty bad. But the other ones, I'm kind of like, I'll do the $7.99 because I'm still paying for it at that point, just not
Right.
the full price.
Right, exactly. Do you keep the audio even after you return to KU? So you mean if you have a Kindle Unlimited subscription and you borrow the ebook to get the discount on the audiobook? Is that what you mean?
I
If
think,
if that's what you mean, yes, like you pay the $7.49 for that book, you own that forever. So you send the ebook back when you're done. Yeah.
yeah, because all you're doing is like borrowing the book, but you still have to pay for the Audible. So even if you return the book, you paid for the Audible book, so you do get to keep it. I had a question. It just kind of like, what is your favorite platform?
Favorite platform? I mean,
Or are you just one of those where it's like, as long as I can listen to it, I really don't care?
yeah, like I mean, I'll tell authors a lot, send it to me through BookFunnel
Yeah.
because there are some people who they only want the Audible code. I guess because of how they organize it in their Audible library. I do not care. You can send it. I have received audiobooks through like crazy file systems and like a Dropbox folder that I will never see again. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't. Fun fact, I have never re-listened to the same audiobook twice.
Neither have I.
I have
As
not.
much as I'll love and rave about an audiobook, once it's done, like I'm good.
Well, that's how I knew last year. My number one audiobook of the year was He's Not My Type by Megan Quinn. Um,
Oh
I
yeah, I
felt
listened to that one because you recommended it.
it was the funniest audiobook I had ever listened to, but it also still had some heart to it. It was that multicast.
Hmm.
But I had so much fun listening to that book that as soon as it was over, I wanted to go back and immediately start it over. And I
Hmm.
never feel that way about a book.
I remember that one. I laughed. I think that was like the first hockey one where I laughed so hard from it. I was like, this was done so
It
well.
was so
I think
funny.
it was like the text banter. That's like one of
Yeah,
my favorite like micro tropes is the text banter. I will
yes.
if it's got text banter in it, if it's not funny and you have text banter, what are you doing? I don't.
Yes. I love that. I love the bromance. It
Yes.
was giving me Ted Lasso vibes, which I love Ted Lasso. Like just the whole concept. I mean, everything about the book were the things I loved,
Yeah.
like he's hung up on this girl, she's dating somebody else, he's
Yeah.
pining for her, and then the
Mhm.
moment she breaks up with the guy, all of
He's
his
like,
guy friends are like, all right, dude, we're gonna get this girl for you. Like, we're gonna give you advice. And it's all terrible
it's
advice.
terrible.
And
Oh my
it
god,
just
horrible. You sit there and wonder,
I
how did
felt
y'all
like
get
I
your
was
woman?
watching, yeah, it's like I was watching a sitcom and I just had tears from laughing so hard while I was listening to that book.
So,
That book's made me very
so
happy.
someone asked, have
Vanessa
you
said
ever
I have
read?
listened 7 or 8 times. Wow.
No, I can't. For some reason, like I like once I'm done with it and I've enjoyed it and digest it, I have to move on. Like I feel like for me, there's so many things out there and I have so little time. Like so
That's
little
nice.
time, I have to. I have to go to the next one. Someone asked if you've ever.
So I have reread books and I have read a book with my eyes
Mm-hmm.
and then listened to the audio.
Mm-hmm.
I do that fairly regularly, I think, because sometimes I will, whatever I might be doing with an author or get an arc, and maybe the audio is not going to be available for a couple of months, but I
Yeah.
really want to know the story. I'll go ahead and read it and then I'll listen to it. And I always enjoy the audio more. Like it just elevates the book even
Yeah.
more. That has
That's
to
kind
be,
of where I am right now because I just got Pucking Revenge by Brittany Nicole, and I want to read that because I listened to Revenge Era uh, when it first came out, and I was like, ugh. So then I was like, I want to read it now. That's pretty great, but also I'm gonna do that, and then for Fox, I'm doing that too because the story plot sounds amazing, but then also
yeah, I've heard
Sebastian
good
York.
things about that series.
Me too, and then Sebastian York. I was like, yep, nope, gotta read that before I listen to it because then I'm not gonna remember once I hear him talk. That's nope.
Yep. Yeah, Brittany's new book that just released today. I'm going to devour that book. Let
Devour.
me tell you. But I know the audio is coming very, very shortly. So if it's
Hmm.
really close, I would rather just wait. If it's going to be 3 months, I'll read it and then
Yeah.
listen. But if
Hmm.
it's like within a month, that's hard for me to take the time to read and then immediately go back into the story because then
Yeah.
it's just a little too fresh.
Hmm.
I got to give it a little bit of distance to fully enjoy the audiobook.
That's how I felt with both Hawk and Kid, because I read Hawk way into the beginning when I first got back into reading, and then I read Kid the day I got my wedding dress. I was already emotional from
Oh,
wedding dress shopping. Then I read Kid. Oh, it was a
it is
great weekend.
hard, man. That was
Oh
too
my
much
gosh.
realism for me. I loved it,
Listen,
but
I
whew,
don't know what I was thinking when I was like, this is my plan. Like, I sat there after finishing it, looked up at the ceiling, and I'm like, this is where I am right now. My fiance goes, are you okay? I'm like, not really, no. Just the wrong book to read this weekend. It's okay. Because it was one of those where, like you, I try to schedule certain things to read. And at that point, I was dead set on finally reading Kid. Like, emotionally, like, I'm ready. I can do this. Yeah, no. Should not have picked my wedding dress weekend to then read Kid. Yeah, no.
no, it's hard. Okay, him, you've listened to it at least 8 times. Now that is a fantastic audiobook. That's just a sweet story. It just makes you feel good. It's not high.
What's that about?
Him is a hockey romance. It's an MM romance. It's
Okay.
actually the first time that Jacob Morgan and Teddy Hamilton worked on a book together.
Ooh.
And it's about two really close friends, and they go to hockey camps growing up in the summer.
Mm.
And one of them realizes he has feelings for his friend. And so it's them kind of coming to terms with that and what that means. And it's just so sweet.
This sounds adorable. It's
It's
almost like, okay, I
adorable.
know we've been friends forever, but I love you. Okay,
Yeah.
bye.
Yeah. So like the one friend, so he's gay but is loving his best friend. The other friend is starting to realize that he might be bisexual. And
The
so
bi
it's like
awakening.
it's like self-discovery, but also like friends. They just love each other. And it's just
You're like, I already know you, you know me, let's just
I
get
know.
together.
It's so sweet.
Anytime I think of that, now I just think of Cassandra and her husband when she told the story. I was like, that, first of all, is the funniest thing ever. That is legit a book. Ma'am, that is not necessary. That's my chihuahua. Sorry. She loves to be the center of attention. Hi. No, since you're gonna be
Hi,
here, you're gonna say hi
attention.
too.
There she is.
Yeah, now she's gonna be like deer in the headlights, like, oh, you picked me up. Yeah, because you came in here and made noises. But she does that. I was surprised it took her this long. Anytime I've ever done a Zoom call or like a face messenger call, she will climb on my chest and just like look at the person and then walk away. That's
Yeah.
just how she is. But no, that's just like so cute. Her name
Yeah.
is Lily. She's sassy and loves to control the household. That is. She tells us when it's bedtime. She tells us when it's time to wake up. We kind of just follow along with what she wants. Is there a book you went in blind and fell in love with immediately? Ooh.
Most books I go into blind.
Honestly, yeah. I'll look at the trope list, and as long as the trope list matches what I like, I kind of just like screw it. Like the last dark romance ALC that came out with Blue Nose, Severance Avenged or something along those lines. Like I keep forgetting like what the first one is, but it was on my TBR for the longest time. I had no idea what it was about. None. All I just kept seeing was like quotes on it on TikTok. So then when Blue Nose sent the email, I was like, yeah, I'll sign up for it. I don't know what it's about, but sure. So I went and loved it. I love that story. There's a second one coming out. It's just like a dark romance where um she is this bad A cop and she's always been a detective and a cop and she does things on her own and then this guy falls in love with her and is like, oh, I'm gonna be protective and possessive. And she's like, why are you here? Like, why are you following me and trying to like do all this stuff for me? And he goes, because I can. She goes, I don't need you. Like, why are you here? It's like one of those funny things where I love a strong female main character and the strong main male character are both like clashing because
Yeah.
like one won't give up control. It's like the best thing ever.
Yep. I do like that a lot. It's fun. Yeah, I mean, I feel like most books I go into blind, to be honest with you. And I mean, I'll be real. I love the romance genre. I'm pretty damn easy to please. I mean, yeah, I rarely DNF.
Yeah.
Very rarely. And usually when I DNF, I'm just not, I'm feeling like the story is just a little too long,
Mm.
or I feel like it gets kind of slow in the middle. Um, yeah, but that doesn't happen very much. I mean, most of the time, I just really love the stories and love the, if it's an audiobook, I'm just love the performances. I mean, I do try new narrators a lot. I think that's important to just
Oh yeah, absolutely.
diversify your ears and not always listen to the same things. I obviously have actors that I prefer that I think are really amazing. And so if they are
Mhm.
on a project, I might be more likely to pick it up because I know even if the story is not going to be my thing normally, I think I will just still enjoy the performance aspect of it.
Mhm.
But I find a lot of new authors that way.
Yeah.
It's
I
really
like literally this year alone I've only DNF'd one book. And it like broke my heart to DNF it, but it just we were not vibing the way that I hoped that we would vibe.
yeah,
So, and I tell people it's okay, but I also tell people I won't tell them what book it is because you might like the book way better than I do. And as you probably know, with the influence that we have when we say like, oh, we don't like it, then like nobody will read it. But at the end of
right,
the day, if I don't like it, you may love it. And that's a
right.
whole different thing. And I'd rather you find the book that you love versus like only following what I like and don't like.
Right, exactly. I do the same thing with narration. There are some narrators that you know, don't love their male voice if they're a female narrator. Or I don't love their female voice if they're a male narrator. So I try to stick to just duets that they do.
Yeah.
Or I just don't, it's subjective and there's going to be some voices and the way that they have their cadence and their rhythm with their narration is just not my favorite. And but that's not something that I'm going to
Yeah, no.
share with the world because I mean I've seen people talk about some of these narrators and how, oh my gosh, I will listen to anything that this person narrates, they're my favorite. And
Mm-hmm.
I think, oh, well, great, like there's a voice for every character, there's a voice for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And like I'm not going to be the person to come up and say, oh, well, glad they're your favorite, they're not my favorite. I hate when
Yeah.
people do that in the comments. If I am saying something positive, like I love these narrators or I love this book, don't come into my comments and tell me how much you hate it.
Especially
Talk
when you
about
have
that.
them tagged in the video.
No, go
That
talk
annoys me the
about that
most.
on your own platform. That's fine. You are entitled to have an opinion. That
Mm-hmm.
is fine. Go make your own video about how much you dislike that book, dislike that author, dislike that narrator's performance, or whatever it is. But don't come on mine and say that. You're
Yeah,
gonna
no.
delete it.
I have deleted. I have to go back and delete one now because I had seen it right before we got on. And I didn't delete it. It was talking about Hitch, and they're like, "Oh, I know I really love Angelina, but no, you could have just said that you love Teddy Hamilton in this and like left it. Like I hate when people do that. That's just ugh. Yeah, no, I hate when they do it because specifically for me, whenever I talk about it, I purposely will tag the narrators and I'll tag the authors because I want them to see it. So then it's like all this negative. I'm like, I didn't ask for this. I said I liked it. Why are you here?
Right, exactly.
To answer this person's question, no, I'm not going to Denver. I know, unfortunately, very sad. I'm only going to two book events this year at this time because clearly I feel like more seem to be announced with every month. I'm only going to two. I'm going to uh, Joe's performance in Baltimore, November 2nd.
Oh,
And then the weekend after that, I am going to Indies Take Philly because that location's only like 30 minutes from me. And I'm like, that is perfect. I will drive there, do whatever events
yeah.
there, and come home. So those are the only two. I'm not going to Readers Take Denver. I'm not going to, what's the other one? The Vegas one. I'm not going to that one. I'm not going to the Nashville one. I know that like literally just got announced. I got so many you posted. People were DMing me like nuts. They're like, "Oh, so you're going to?" Someone's like, "Oh, are you gonna surprise us?" And no, This is wedding gear. I
Yeah.
cannot surprise
Would like
anybody
to pay
anywhere.
for
Like
it?
you would love to pay for it, sure, but I'm not surprising nobody. I literally told people I will let you know when I'm going to any events at this point because y'all want me to go to so many. I get it. But no, I'm not going to Denver. I want to. I really do, but I cannot. Someone said,
Melissa said, "What book has stuck with you the longest that you think about the most?"
mm,
I have this one.
okay.
This one is Perfect Strangers by J.T. Geisinger. I
Ooh,
still
okay.
think about that book. That's the book I wish I could reread for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
It is I went in completely blind.
Mm-hmm.
It is a mind twist of a book. It's so good.
Well,
I,
you say that because mine is Pen Pal by the same author. And it's only because, so this is the funniest thing ever. So we drove
wait,
my
did you
sister.
read Pen Pal first?
No, so that's the funniest part is I didn't read it, but my sister and I audiobook listened to it while driving her up to college. And
Oh,
and so we were like, oh, we're going in blind. This is just gonna be. We thought this was like, oh, this is some dark romance. Like, he just got out of prison. He's obsessed with a pen pal. No, no. And so it was so
mm.
bad when the plot twist happened. We were pulling into a gas station, and my sister and I's face were like, and my dad just like knocked on the window, and he's like, "You guys okay?" And we're like, "Give us like 5 minutes. We need to like process."
Uh-huh.
Because we would pause the book and like talk about it and like give our predictions of like what's happening, like what could the plot twist be. We were both wrong. We
Oh
were
yeah,
both wrong.
so when I got back into reading in 2020, J.T. Geisinger was one of those authors that I came across on Kindle Unlimited. And I randomly picked up Beautifully Cruel.
Mm-hmm.
And by like chapter three, I was like, this author is my girl. And I just went through her whole catalog. I just did the whole catalog, and every time she had a new book come out, I'm like, "Yep, I just love her writing style. She writes great banter. Um,
Mm-hmm.
there's usually not in all of her books, but in a lot of them, there's some kind of crazy plot twist.
Plot twist.
So I
Mm-hmm.
went to her website, and one, back then, like when I would find an author I really liked, the first thing I would do is go to Facebook because I didn't have a TikTok, I didn't have an Instagram, and I'd go to Facebook and I'd look for their reader groups, and then I would go like hunt down their website. And on her website, she had a list of all the books. And for Perfect Strangers, it said, "You will want to throw your Kindle at the wall, but just keep going." And I thought, that was the book description. You will
That's
want to
the
throw your Kindle
best.
at the wall, but just keep going. And I thought, okay, that's all I knew about the book. That's the only, I didn't read the blurb. I didn't do anything. I just got it and just started reading it. And I will
With a
tell you,
description like that, you at that point need to read it to see what it's about. Like, am
it's
I really gonna throw my
100%
Kindle?
true. It's 100% true. I remember at one point I'm sitting in my living room reading this book, and I just, I verbally said, "What kind of Nicholas Sparks bullshit is this? I did not sign up for this." And I was so mad. I have you all feelings. You are happy. It's mysterious. You are sad. The roller coaster is like this, but it is brilliant. It's brilliant. Because I had a theory for people who like her books. If you read, whichever one you read first, Pen Pal or Perfect Strangers, that was your favorite between the two.
Yeah, the just the plot twist that happened, like as it was leading up to it, I was like, no, there's no way. What's happening? And then I had like the tiniest thought that I knew, and then it happened. And we had to pause the
Mhm.
book, think it through, and we're just kind of like, we would have never
It
guessed this.
messes with you a little bit because you think you know, but then other things are happening. You're like, no, I guess I'm wrong.
And
I
that
guess I'm wrong because of these
literally,
things. But then it all kind of gets.
we literally sat there, like now remembering everything that was happening and was like dissecting it from like the chapter pages to the chapter name. We're like, how did we miss this? We missed all the
Right,
signs were there and we went right past them. Which
right.
I think for me, for her, that's so smart. You literally laid it out for us. Like it was right there,
Yeah.
plain as day. And if you aren't like truly paying attention to it, you're like, oh, it's whatever. That's just a name.
Yeah.
Cool. Whatever. I
Yeah.
love when that
So that
happens.
was a book I read because I had to have it. So as soon as Pen Pal came out, I read it.
Mhm.
And then when the audio came out, like I think it was 2 or 3 months later, I listened to it. So going through the second time, I picked up on all the little things along the way.
I tell people, I think when I posted about it, I was like, this is the one book you will never see
Talking
me
about
read
Pen
again.
Pal and Perfect Strangers
Yeah.
by J.T.
Like if you ever want just like your mind screwed up, pen pal.
So
Right
fun.
there.
So fun. Yeah.
It's
That's the so yeah, that would be we kind of went off on that a little bit. But yeah, if it's a book that I still think about sometimes, yeah, I would love to read that book for the first time. It's so good. Yeah,
there's so many books.
almost all of her audiobooks are duet style. She, from what I understand, she was one of the first authors to really go after duet style narration.
Really?
Yes.
That's kind of crazy, but now you see like it's become people's like favorite. Like if you find dual and you find the right narrators, it's perfect. But I feel like a lot of people prefer duet. Like if it's not duet, like nothing.
Yeah. And Midnight Valentine, yes, I have read that book and I have listened to it. Um, it actually just got re-released. It got re-recorded in duet style.
I
Um,
wonder what that process looks like too, because I've seen a couple of times where people have had to like re-record
mhm,
due to circumstances, and like the price. Like okay, so I know that there's like the initial audiobook price when you're paying
right.
for it. Is it still as pricey to re-record over somebody, or is it like
Yeah, you're starting
cheaper?
all over. Start all over again.
Oh, that sucks.
Yep.
Yeah,
Because
I've seen.
you're paying for the narrator's time and you're paying for the editing and the proofing and the engineering and so yeah, you start all over. So, I mean, I've heard of stories of authors who have hired a narrator, they've made an audiobook and then they've paid for it and they're not happy with it. And so
Mm,
you paid for it and yeah, sorry, that you to be in, but then they'll
yeah,
go and have it re-recorded.
yeah. The only ones I've seen recently, which again really sucks, is that they'll record the book does great, and then the author and the narrator get into this like some kind of beef, and then they just decide to part ways, and so they re-record over that person because they're no longer working together.
Yeah.
Which then at that point it really sucks. It's already out there and people loved it for that reason. So then like to have to redo it all over again. And then I think from what I saw, because Chantal Tessier was one where she redid The Ritual
Right.
because she admitted that like she didn't really know audiobooks like in general. She was just kind of like, okay, I know people want it here. And then when she found out like people prefer duets, she had it redone, and people actually had to reach out to Amazon to get the new file because they bought it with the old file. So I feel
Right.
like that's just like a huge process too of
Yeah.
just like people scared that you have to redo it and then hoping that the same people will rebuy it or it'll still get the same love as it did the first time.
Yeah. Well, my understanding is though, once you have purchased the book, even if it gets re-recorded with new narrators, you can re-download it and still get the new version of that book. I
Yes, you can. You
yeah.
have to
So you don't have to
from the
rebuy it.
process. Yeah, so they just had to email showing like they had bought it, and then all they did was like re-upload to get the new one.
Yeah. Vanessa said, "Who are narrators that don't get enough hype?" That's a great question.
Honestly, Grayson Owens for me, I feel is one that does not get enough hype or credit. I won't say credit. He just doesn't get enough hype. And I know, I feel like I've only really started listening to him from the Heart of Inferno series from Nicole Fanning. That was like my first introduction to him.
Yeah. Same.
But I feel like he does not get enough love. He deserves so much more love.
He's very good. I guess if we start with male narrators, I really like Noah Perez. He did a Britt Benson book called Nothing Feels Better. I think it's Nothing Feels Better. It's the third of a series. I love that whole series. Um, so he's fantastic. I really like J.F. Harding.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
J.F. Harding is very good. Trying to think. Robert Hatchett. I really enjoy his narration. Ooh, I listened to one not too long ago by an actor named Benjamin Charles.
Okay.
I really liked his narration. It's very good. Um, let's see, female narrators. I love Vanessa Edwin. I think she's fantastic. She has one of the best male voices too. Like I would always listen to her on dual style narration. She's great. She does a lot of romance.
Mm-hmm.
So, oh hi Lacey Laurel. I had dinner next to Lacey back in at Book Bonanza. She's lovely.
Aw.
Uh, so Vanessa Edwin, I really enjoy. Um, who else? Oh, Kelly Tager. Really like Kelly Tager. And hmm, I'm trying to think who I met this past weekend that I've heard their books. And they were really great. Like,
Oh yeah, how was that?
it's amazing.
You looked phenomenal, by the way. I know I commented it,
Thank
but you looked
you.
phenomenal.
I felt like old Hollywood. The lipstick and the
With the
dress.
silver?
It was so much fun. People were very glamorous. It was so much fun.
I watched.
Yes,
I
Lacey, I
love
am
it.
going again, and Denver. I'm going to both.
Ooh.
I'm still thinking of other underrated. Is underrated the right word? Just not talked about
Yeah,
enough on here. A
just not
female
talked enough.
narrator.
Yeah, like overlooked almost. I feel as though they get overlooked, and you're just like, no, no, give them a chance. Give,
You know what? I gotta do it this way because I'm not. I gotta like get out my Audible.
That's what I
'Cause
usually
right
do.
now, off the top of my head, makes it hard.
I'll
But
say
yes,
grab mine, but my iPad is currently charging because I'm now living the double device life where I listen to my audiobooks on my iPad and record on my phone.
nice. Let's see.
Oh, mine too. Like I would explode. I would have one of those moments where it'd be so real that I'm in the room where it's happening because that's how I would feel. I'd feel like this is the room where it's happening, and then I probably would try to not be a deer in the headlights when someone would talk to me because that would be the moment where I'd need to be professional and have a conversation. I'd just be like, "You're really cool and like really famous," and I need to treat you like just a normal human being.
Oh, go back to male narrator Will Watt.
Okay.
I love Will Watts. He is a British actor.
Ooh.
Yes, he's wonderful. Love him. Uh,
I know you
I'm
had
looking.
Zach, you had Teddy, you had Lucy, you had Maxine, you had Joe, you had everybody. Anybody that I felt like was anybody was in that room.
There were a lot of people in that room. It was very exciting. It was very, very exciting. Oh, yes, and Zach and Teddy at one point, I didn't have my phone like out all the time, but they were being so cute together and then they're like hugging on each other and talking about going to see a movie. I'm like, oh,
The real life
they're
bromance
so
right there.
excited, so cute. Love you. So cute. Shane East. Shane East was there.
Ooh, that name sounds
Um,
familiar. Why does that sound
Shane
familiar?
East, he's also a British actor.
Wasn't there
Um,
just like an audiobook or two that came out with him on it?
Probably.
I think so.
I
I
mean,
can't remember right now. It's gonna irritate me.
he
I'll
is a
probably message you later and be like, "This is the one I'm talking about." 'Cause, like, I'm
yeah.
hearing
I
like
mean,
when you're
he
saying
does.
names, I'm seeing some of the audiobooks, and I'm like, "Yeah," but like that one, like it's right there, and I just cannot remember.
Yeah, he's. I mean, he does. He does some dark stuff. He does a lot. I mean, he does everything. But he has a lovely tone to his voice for sure.
Oh, now that you say that, like I'm seeing a couple of names now. Yeah, I think that's
Uh, oh, Vivian
that's the bot.
LaRue. Vivian LaRue. She is underrated. I think more people should be talking about her because she wins Audie Awards.
Oh,
She's
Shane
amazing.
East. He does. Haha. the both of the books for Shanora, or I think I said her name right, Shanora Williams of Vicious Bonds and Vicious Lies. He does the audio voices
Okay.
for those names for those books. See, it took me a second. Sometimes I'm really bad with names, but if I see it a couple of times, it like
Right,
sticks.
right. That's why I'm looking. I mean, she's been around for a while, but I don't feel like people talk about her a lot. Ava Erickson. She has one of my favorite narration voices.
Okay.
Love Ava Erickson.
I'm literally just gonna be editing this, and then I'm just gonna start writing down all these names as I'm editing this video. Like
Oh
she didn't
yeah,
mention
Ava
all these names.
Erickson, she's so good. Stella Bloom. She did a couple of Brittany Nicole's books,
Okay.
the Extra Dirty and Dirty Truths. She's so good.
Yep.
Yes, I love CJ Bloom.
Oh, I
She's
think
so
those are the
great.
only two audiobooks I haven't read from that whole series. I know.
Really?
I know. I know. I
So
did Whiskey.
yeah, so Whiskey Lies and Loving Whiskey, really loved it. It's great. I personally enjoyed Dirty Truths and Extra Dirty more.
I need to do that because I did those two and then I did Irish. And I was like, I feel like I'm
Oh,
missing
but you need the
something.
middle story
I know.
because
I'm going to go back and
ends
listen
and
to
like
it.
leads into why Irish is 10 years later.
Yeah.
Let's see. I'm just going through this really, really long list that I
When you're sitting there and realizing
I
I really
mean,
do listen to a lot of books.
it's like there's so many. And it's also very, very long.
I had to clean up my book funnel the other day because I realized that some of the audiobooks I had on book funnel I also had on Audible. So I'm like, okay, if we can't have it on both, I need to like get rid of some of these here.
So you can delete some of it.
Oh, hey mom. My mom just joined.
Hi. Oh, Grace Grant. I have not heard a book by Grace Grant. Let's see, some of the other narrators, Evelyn Rose, I met her while I was at the Audis, and then I met Stephanie Rose, um, Lee Monroe,
Okay.
um, let's see, Jupiter Young. I'm thinking of all the romance
You're like, I've
pseudonyms.
met these people and I'm trying to think of the names.
Yeah, well, I am. Well, because it was so interesting because most of the people I met there were pretty open about their pseudonyms. Like they would tell me what their name was, and then they would say, or they'd have written somewhere, like on a name tag.
Yeah.
Um, because I would be talking to them, and they're like, "Oh, but I also narrate under this name." I'm like, oh, gotcha.
There you
Okay,
go.
thanks.
That was like for Siege name to tag her. It was like Carly, and I'm like, oh, that
Right.
makes sense. Because I would see
Yeah.
Carly, like, I think on TikTok or something, and then you go to Instagram and she has both. So I'm like, oh, that makes sense. You're the same person. Okay.
Yeah, she's always been very open. Um, I mean, I feel like a lot of them are pretty open. It's not like a big secret. It's
No.
just a way to distinguish the difference between the books because,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of narrators, if they don't narrate romance, they probably narrate lots of other things, including children's books,
Mm-hmm.
middle grade books, young adult books. And so you don't want a 12-year-old doing an
Mm-hmm.
Audible search for their favorite narrator and stumbling across, like The Anti-Hero by Sarah Kate. Like,
No.
not really an appropriate book for a 12-year-old to be listening to, in my
That's exactly like Avery Carris. She
yeah,
does that. She has two
yeah.
different names because she narrates children's book and then she, narrates Hawk. And we don't need children listening to Hawk.
No, not appropriate. Not appropriate at all. Um, yeah, well, I mean, uh, but yes, that's one because
Oh,
people will ask, like, why do they have pseudonyms? I mean, that's the biggest reason why. It's just a way
yeah.
to distinguish the difference because romance books have a pretty adult content in a lot of them. Not all of them, but some of them. And you don't want somebody who's not prepared to listen to that.
Yep. Well, I've kept you longer than I wanted to. I really do appreciate you doing this. I've learned way
Yeah,
more
it's so much
now.
fun
I
exciting. This was
know.
great.
We should do this more often. Again, I know I say it before and I say it again. Thank you for being just so open and honest on your page about everything audiobook and sharing everything. You taught me a lot. I know you teach other people a lot, so just thank you. I know you have some audiobooks to listen to and some packing probably to do for your trip this
Yes.
weekend. So I will
I'm
not keep
staring
you
at my suitcase right now on the floor. It's just 3 days, so it's not gonna be like packing up all the kids' stuff takes a few more.
that, yeah. Yeah, I remember like anytime we would leave, my mom's like, "Okay, let me pack everybody else." So she'd pack like me, my sister, and then like it'll be midnight. She's like, "Okay, I'll pack your father and I guess," and then she'll just sleep on the car ride wherever we're going.
That's great.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm excited about Denver. Denver's gonna be
I
wild.
will have,
It's
I'll have
huge.
so much FOMO, but I will watch for all the videos and
It's
photos.
huge. I think it's gonna be overwhelming. I will not be on the signing days. I will not just be like walking around because I'm helping at Brittany Nicole's table.
Yeah, I've
So
bought so many
it's gonna be
things that I have friends picking up for me. I'm like, okay, yeah, I can order. I think that's been the worst thing for me is even though I'm not going, I've ordered so much Readers Take Denver like special edition things that I have boxes just continuously coming of things. I'm like, I'm
wow.
sorry guys, but can you pick this up for me, please?
Yeah, I like that. I like when authors do like special edition kind of books.
Yeah, I think
Have
right
you
now
seen that
I'm
one?
getting.
The cover? It's a book. Oh God, who is the author? Somebody in here has seen it because it's been on Instagram because you cannot show it on TikTok. It's a special edition cover and it's like a woman sitting in a chair with nothing here.
I
And
think I know which one.
there's a
That's a
that's
Readers
a
Take Denver
man's
special.
head.
Oh,
And it's on the cover. No, it's for Book Bonanza.
but no, I've seen it all over the place. I'm just like,
I'm like, oh, excuse me.
I saw another author do that for. Actually, I have three of her special edition books here, but she took three different Schmeck scenes and made each of them the special edition book cover, and I'm like, I don't know if I'd put it on my bookshelf. Like,
Personally, that's not my jam. It's not
no,
my jam. I like,
I like the ooh shinies. I'm sorry,
I like,
discreet.
yes, I do. Like, I really love this one.
Oh, that's so pretty.
Fall into You. Like,
Yeah, like I love my special
these
edition.
covers are not my fave.
No, like I know that's like a big oh, that's so pretty. Like people love the models for the Brutal Obsession hockey series, like the God series.
Yeah.
I love the discreet covers way more. Like there's one with like point shoes and the skates on it. I'm like, oh, they're so pretty.
This is gorgeous. I
That
love this book.
oh, that's a
This is
backboard.
my jam right here. This is just so pretty. I am. I'm a sucker for like the flowers or the abstract
The
art. Like,
pretty because like it still gives enough attention and it's just like all the special edition ones are all the discreet cover ones.
and I for if there's people on the cover, I want it to be like this.
Oh, that's
Like
it's
this series, these are all real life couples too.
oh.
So they're not just models, they're actually couples. And the character she picked the couples and then the character descriptions actually match.
Oh,
So
that's
I
so
like
cute.
that. That makes me really happy.
Yeah, I think all the ones.
I love this series.
Yeah. Oh, I think the Canary Coward special edition one. I
Uh-huh.
think has a person on it, but it's more of just like the football field aesthetic. And I'm like, oh, I love that.
I love it like that. I
But then I
love
also
I
said if
love
Jesse Hall came out with like any special edition book, I was getting it. So my
Canary
poor.
Cowards was my favorite eyeball read of last year.
Which one?
Canary Cowards.
So
Jesse.
good. That one had me so excited only because it was going to be the most diverse, like really showing her diversity. Because like you had That Sick Love, which was her darkest book, and then you had Hawk and Kid, which had dark themes, but they weren't like dark as That Sick Love, but it was still like in that. So when it was like, oh yeah, it's going to be like a sports romance, I was like, I'm intrigued. Please
Yes.
tell me more. So then when I realized this was perfect. This was you. This was everything. And now she's doing step siblings, and I cannot wait.
I Step siblings. I mean, I like Jesse's writing. I'm sure I will. I'm sure I will get into
This
that.
one's dark and twisted. I'm on our street team. We got like a little sneak peek. Delicious.
Dark and twisted.
Dark and twisted. Delicious.
I like a little twist. I'm good with a little twist. Yeah, Jessica's gonna be all over that.
Ugh, it's so good.
She's a dark romance girly.
So good. Yeah, that's the funniest thing. People are like, you ever read like rom coms? Yeah, I do. But every time I post them, y'all think I've gone nuts. So I post about my dark stuff so that I even it out a little bit. Now I'm into erotic core and they're like, are you okay? Yes, I'm fine. Maybe. I don't know.
I do love a rom com. And I love contemporary romance too. Like Abby Jimenez, she is one of my favorite authors. I adore her books. And she has one that's about to come out. So this will be her fifth, sixth book. They're all 5 stars. They are lower on the spice scale.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even care. Don't even care. Don't even care. I just love. And her audiobooks are all freaking fantastic. I love her with my whole heart. I always recommend her books because I feel like her books are for everybody.
Yeah.
You can recommend her books to your mom, your sister, your hairstylist, your dark romance girly, because Jessica, you did this one, didn't you? In our audiobook club, didn't you listen to yours truly last year when we did it? I mean, I feel like it's a book for everybody.
Now I gotta. I always love like finding new authors and finding like new everything.
So this book was when I made my list of best listens of last year. This was
okay.
This was the book I rated most likely to change someone's life.
I remember that. That was like, I wonder why that looks familiar. That's why.
Because I feel like it deals with a character that has a lot of social anxiety. And so if you have that, you feel very seen. And if you don't, you probably know someone who does. And it helps you figure out ways that you can love them better. Like it's just...
That's me with Feel It All by Molly Goyne. It's the first book in 3 books that she's doing. One is about a different sibling. And the first one is the older sibling, and she has anxiety, but she's always there for people. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's me. So that was my book where I'm like, I can really like get into that. And it was like emotional, and there was like a little bit of like, and it was just not a lot of spice. It was just super good. It was just super sweet, and it's just, I love it.
Yeah. So Abby Jimenez is low spice. Like I think that book maybe has 1 scene in it. And it's not super descriptive. It's not fade to black.
Yeah.
Things are happening, but it's just low description.
Not super descriptive.
Yeah, it's just there's no dirty talk. There's no explicit words being used. It's just sweet. I love it. Yeah. And you can get those from your local library because they are widely published. You can get the audiobooks from your library. Yes, Abby Jimenez from the very beginning. Boom, 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 boom. There's always like a little bit of it, but they're all standalones.
Aww.
Yeah, it's not a step-by-step, inch-by-inch telling.
And sometimes you just don't need that. You just want a really good story. Like if the story is good enough, you can just skip over that part. Like you don't need it.
Right. And that's how I feel about most romance. Like, I have definitely read books where I feel like there's too much. Too much spice. Now, if you're going into it, like... See, I have all my favorite books in here.
I'm about to say, you're like ready to go.
If you know what you're getting into, then it's fantastic. It's super fun and it's funny. I don't think I can reach back up there. But in just like a normal romance book, if it's just scene after scene after scene after scene, like it loses, to me, it loses its...
Yeah. For me, if it's less than 100 pages, I'm assuming it's mostly smut, and that's what I'm going for. But then if it's longer, I'm gonna need equal plot, equal smut, maybe more plot than smut. But I'm kind of there with you. I don't want too much, but I'm also just like, I want an equal medium based on what I'm going into. If I know what I'm looking for when I go into it, hopefully that's what I get.
I read it probably has 3 scenes in it.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's kind of like mid-grade romance. And the
Yeah.
three scenes can be really spicy and really descriptive,
Mm-hmm.
but it's just three
Right.
times. And
Yeah.
then there's lots and lots of plot and lots of character development. That's my
That's your jam.
that's my sweet spot, I think. Personal preference. All right, I probably should go though, because my husband is downstairs and
With all the children, probably
yeah,
just
well,
like, why is she still?
one of them definitely should be in bed by now, but
Oh, yep. We will talk later. Thank you so
no,
much
don't
again.
question your spicy writing. These are just opinions,
No. Oh yeah, everyone's allowed to have your opinion, but write what you write. You're gonna write the best stuff writing what you want.
right?
Like I feel like when you try to cater,
Do not write, and I'm not saying this specifically for you, but just authors in general. Don't write what's hot right now. Don't write what you
no,
think people want to read. You got to be true to
don't.
yourself and write what you want to write, and there will be readers out there who will want to read what you write.
There are billions of people in the world. You will find your reader base, your people will love what you write. You just have to if you don't love what you write, it's going to be hard to promote it. Like if you're just writing it for other people, it's going to be so hard to promote. Write it for you and the right people will find your book. Like do it that way, it's so much better than just like now I hate it and I don't want to talk about it.
Right. Because when someone loves a book, they won't be able to shut up about it.
Exactly.
It's great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much. This was so
Thank
much fun,
you.
Maria, and I'm sure I will chat with you online.
Of course. Thank you bunches.
All right. Bye.
Bye.